Hey, Matt Adair here. I want to talk to you about something that I've been personally frustrated about for a little while. Over the past 6 or 7 years, there's been a growing conviction in my heart that my church is not as diverse as it needs to be. I don't know if this is an issue for you. It's a broader issue that we're seeing in the evangelical church, and it's a really interesting conversation because I think that in real ways we have seen, by God's grace, a shift in perception so that there are fewer Christians now, I believe, who would say that they have personal animosity towards a particular person because of the color of their skin. I still believe that we have a massive amount of work to do when it comes to understanding the history of racism and understanding our modern contemporary implications and complicity in that, particularly when it comes to the idea of institutional, societal racism. And so, one of the things that I've been struggling with and wrestling with is trying to figure out what it looks like for me to lead my church into a better future. Now, as we've thought about certain changes to make, whether it's in the way that we worship on Sundays, what it looks like for us in terms of staffing, what it looks like for us in terms of reaching out to the community around us, what does it look like for us to be diverse when the building that we're in is not in a diverse community? Every move that we have thought about making, as I've prayed about this, talked about this with our elders, with staff, with volunteer leaders, there's a growing conviction in our church that we want to be part of a different future for the sake of our community and the sake of our church and its witness in the world. Every single move that we have believed that maybe we should take, we feel like that's us getting in front of the Holy Spirit. And so I got my just mentor from afar, Duke Kwon, who's pastor of Grace Meridian Hill, D.C., and we recorded a conversation that is this week's podcast of the Five Factors podcast. And in that conversation, I just asked him to coach me up. And one of the things that was really helpful for me was that Duke was talking about when you are leading a church or an organization, but we'll just keep it with churches. When you're leading a church in a monocultural context, do you understand why? Do you know the story behind how your church and your community got to be that way? And so I was able to share a story because it was like a light bulb came on about the reality of the community that we're in, but not just the community we're in, but the building where we actually meet. And so when you listen to this week's episode, you're going to not only hear Duke help me figure out some very real steps forward, but I believe it's also going to be helpful for you, not only if you're wrestling with this issue of how the church leads in a world that struggles with racism, how we become a more diverse church for the glory of God, but I also believe that it's going to be helpful for you, even if that doesn't tend to be the issue that's right there. I think that there are going to be some helpful principles for you about how you pay attention to what God's already doing around you as a solution to the problems that you're facing. You can be sure that if God is wanting you to take next steps, that He is already working to lay the path. And so I would really just encourage you to take advantage of the opportunity to listen to this week's episode and hit me up. If you're watching this on YouTube, then leave a comment below. If you're watching this, if you're seeing this and getting this through an email, then hit reply and tell me what you are walking away with from the episode. So I think Duke is a brilliant leader. I'm just so thankful for him, for the ministry that he has in D.C. As we say on the conversation, the work that he's doing in D.C. is not the stuff of Capitol Hill. It's certainly not anything out of an episode of The West Wing or the kind of opening credits to House of Cards. I mean, he's working in a very different part of our nation's capital here in the United States. So I would encourage you to go ahead and take a listen to that. Let me know what you're walking away with, and let's just continue this conversation about what it looks like for us to build great churches and an even better life. So I'm really grateful that we were able to have the conversation and share it with you. Hope you enjoy it, and more importantly, hope it helps you in your journey as a leader.